Advanced functions. Adding help. This nugget is going to start about a 5-part little series, including a lab, that'll let us explore advanced functions a little bit more. And in this nugget, we're going to talk about how to add help, both help for someone reading the script as well as for someone who's actually using your code. We've really only got 2 sections, and we'll spend most of our time here in comment-based help. I'll show you a lot of different keywords and ways that you can construct a help file for your command simply by adding the correct comments to it. But because I want you to be aware of your capabilities, we're also going to talk a little bit about how PowerShell supports external help files in an XML format and what additional capabilities those provide. So I'm going to start with this function that I've created called getDiskSpaceInfo. Now I've saved that in a script module called example, and I've put it in the proper location for modules. So I should just be able to run getDiskSpaceInfo. Yep, give it a computer name. We'll do a couple. And it is working properly. Good, that's just a good, easy, quick test. Now, if I ask for help on this, get disk space info, I'm just getting the bare bones basic help that PowerShell is able to construct by actually looking at the param block of the function. It knows there's a computer name parameter. It knows it's a string, and it knows it accepts multiple values. It knows that there's a local only switch, for example, but that's really all it knows. Now, as I look at this function, I'm kind of reminded of the fact that a lot of people that I know who've been programming for a while like to put comments into their scripts to explain what things do. And PowerShell would allow you to do that. This is a block comment in Windows PowerShell. So anything that goes in here just gets ignored, so you can type whatever you want to. And there's a couple of places where PowerShell can actually utilize this. So in addition to this becoming simply an in-script documentation, can also serve as a kind of help file for this function. Now PowerShell allows you to put this in one of 3 different places. Right here at the beginning, immediately before the function keyword. You could also put it at the end inside the function. I don't like that because I don't like to have to scroll down to the bottom of a function to find out what it's actually doing. Here's where here's where I like to put the thing. Right here inside the function at the beginning of the function. And the reason I like to put it inside the function is because when I collapse the function, it takes the help with it. And if I didn't do that, the help would still be sitting up there taking up room. And once you start to get a lot of functions in one of these files, I just think it's visually a little prettier to do it this way. So there's a help file for this. Help about, comment-based help. So you can read this. I'm not going to make you read it now. I'm actually just going to show you some of it. This doc block, this comment block that I'm creating, can use several different keywords to create the different sections of a help file. For example, you can have a little synopsis. Now I'm just kind of hitting enter on my own. It won't automatically word wrap here in the ISE. If you were to string this out all on one line, when PowerShell displays the help, it will word wrap it kinda, sorta. But because I want this to be useful for someone who's reading the script, I'm kind of trying to limit this so it's not too wide. So the synopsis is just meant to be a couple of lines, a couple sentences even. The description can be longer. There. Oops. Okay. So there's a few other cool things that I think you should do. In addition to a synopsis, you should have a description. You should, for each of your parameters, have a parameter section. Now, after the dot parameter keyword, and those don't have to be in uppercase, by the way. It's perfectly fine for them to be in lowercase, but kind of the style is to put them in uppercase just so they stand out a little bit more. So after the dot parameter keyword name, you put the name of the parameter itself. And that way PowerShell knows which section of help goes with which parameter. So having done that one, I'm going to do a second one for the local only. cannot type today. Okay, there we go. I think it's also helpful to provide some examples. Although I've provided a couple of examples, I want to make sure you know what this does. Now, you use the example keyword by itself. You don't put a number or anything after it, and you don't need to build in separators. But the first line after the .example keyword needs to be your actual example, and I'll show you why that's important. I also like to put a little space in here, and I'll show you what that does. And we'll put a second example, mainly because I want you to see what it looks like. Okay. Now I'm going to save this, and because I've modified my script module, I need to come into the shell and remove the existing copy of the module from memory, and then I can ask for help get disk space info again, and it'll reload the module. And you can see now that it has populated the synopsis, and it has also populated the description. If I ask for full help, then in addition to the synopsis and the description, I also get a breakdown for each of my parameters. So there's the computer name parameter, including all that information I typed. It knows that it goes in position 1. That's the default. All parameters in a function are allowed to be positional unless you specify otherwise. I'm getting a little more prompt here, so I'll hit spacebar. There's my local only switch, and here are my examples. You'll notice that it has numbered the example. It's put in this little, I don't know, this little page separator. And look what it does here. Because the first line of my example is supposed to be the actual example command, the help system is filling in the PowerShell prompt for me. And then it adds a couple of empty spaces before it puts the description for that example. And so example 2, again, you get some extra space in here, and then it puts this. So it's doing a lot of extra formatting completely for us. This is a really, really good set of tools. You not only get something that's helpful to someone who's reading the script file, who's maybe trying to maintain it, but you're also creating something that's helpful for someone who's using this function. And again, because I put this inside the function, I can actually collapse the entire thing, and that allows me to just kind of remove a visual distraction if I want to work on something else that might be in this same file. Now let's go back and look at that help about comment-based help again, because I want to show you some of the other keywords that are available. Let's just get down to the section here. Keywords. Okay, we covered synopsis, description, and parameter. We also covered example. Now there are sections in the help file that are intended to document what sort of input you can pipe into the function. So you could use the .inputs keyword. Also, .outputs can document what it outputs. You're going to find a lot of even the built-in commands don't populate those sections of the help file. There's also a notes section, which is just additional information that only shows up if you ask for the full help. You can also provide a link. Now that's the name of a related help topic. So let's do this. Let's add one. .link. And you've got a couple of ways you can do this. It can include a uniform resource indicator, so a URL, which can point to an online version of the same help topic. Then if you were to run get help, give it your command name with -online, it'll pop that up. Now I'm just going to put something totally bogus in here so we can see how it works. We're also going to do link, let's just stick a command called get content, just so we can see how that is. And a lot of these other ones don't really get used frequently by folks who are writing functions. You got component and role. Forward help category is kind of cool. External help. I'm going to talk about what external help is in just a sec. And that's really it. So now that I've done that, I made that little change. Let's make sure I save that. And remove module example. And then run help get disk space info again. And we're going to go to the end, and you can see no aliases, no remarks. Oh, it didn't take my link content. That's what I was after, because I put these on that line, and it's actually supposed to go down there. By the way, it's not terribly picky about this stuff. Like if you want to separate each of your little sections with some white space, that's totally cool. It's good with that. It'll pick that up. So let's remove it again. Ask for help again. Oops, needed to ask for full help. And now at the bottom I get related links. So it's showing me that those two things are related. But watch this. I want to do -online now. And it should, because I provided a link with a URL, it should actually pop up and go to that URL. Or at least, I mean, try to. Obviously, Bing.com isn't all that interesting. And there it goes. It's trying to load it. Okay, good. As long as I know it works. Where you might actually use that, though, is let's say you are keeping some documentation on commands in your SharePoint installation on your intranet, or just on an intranet web server. You can point folks to that, and that might be where they can get more information, get more updated information, perhaps report a bug or contact the author. So that online piece is really useful. All right, so that's called comment-based help. It's one of the core ways that you can provide help and in-script documentation. Now, this comment-based help is definitely nice. It's easy. You pop it right as comments right in the script, so it doesn't require a lot of overhead, but it does have a couple of downsides. Number one, you can only provide help in a single language. Now, that might not be a problem for you, but it might be that you want to provide help in a couple of different languages. For example, if you work for an international organization and people in different countries are going to be using the tool. Well, you can't do multiple languages using this comment-based help. Also, if you make changes to the help, you're making it right in the script file. Meaning if people have copied your module, in order for them to get the updated content, they're going to have to re-copy the module. The code, your function, and the help go together. Well, there is kind of a way around that, and it gets back to that. Let me see. Let's go back and look at the comment-based help again. There was a keyword in here that I kind of blew past and I said I'd come back to, and it's external help. So if you provide this external help keyword in your comment-based help, and that can be the only keyword you specify, then you point to an XML-based help file. Now, the neat thing about that is you can provide different versions, different languages of that XML help. You could provide one in German, one in English, one in French, one in Italian, whatever you needed to do. So that allows the help system to look at your function and know that it needs to go somewhere else. That also separates your help content from your code. And that allows you to take advantage of the update help commandlet, meaning you could host an updated copy of that XML file on a web server somewhere, and when someone runs update help in Windows PowerShell, PowerShell will scan your module's manifest. So it needs to have a PSD1, and one of the things in that PSD1 tells it where to go find the updated help on the web server, and it'll download that updated XML file, store it locally, and that's what it would use from then on. So how do you create that XML help file? Well, it's kind of a hassle, but I can make it easier on you. Let me find my Internet Explorer here. There it is. Back in the day, on the Windows PowerShell blog teams, this is the product team's blog, they published this commandlet help editor, and there's a URL to get it. As I'm doing this right now, that's still there, so it still works. And it's basically a big GUI. And what you do is you open that thing up, you go through every single function that lives in your module, right? So if this module file had multiple functions, I'd go through each one at a time, and you paste in your synopsis, your description, your parameter help, all the stuff that I've been providing in comment-based help. The tool takes that information and puts it into the correct XML format. And then you can do the exact same thing in other languages, and you'll wind up with an XML file for each language that you work with. So it's kind of neat. There's also a folder structure, a folder hierarchy that you can work with. And there's documentation in PowerShell that tells you how to set up that folder hierarchy so that you can have those different language XML files all kind of nice and bundled right along with your module. So honestly, creating the XML help is not something that a lot of administrators have to do. Most of us just have to work with one language, and it's a lot more convenient just to put the information right here in the help. but I did want you to know that that's an option. It's certainly something you can do if you have a need for it. So we talked a lot about comment-based help, and I think that's where you'll spend most of your time, as I mentioned. It's an easy way to provide documentation right in the script and to provide it in a way that makes it useful for someone running your functions as well. But if you have a need, then you know what the external XML help does a little above and beyond that, and you've kind of got a jump start on a tool that can help you put those files together if need be. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.